Welcome, traders. In this video, we're going to preview the new ZoneTraderPro indicator, the Cumulative Delta Divergence indicator. What makes this indicator unique, along with the other ZoneTraderPro tools, is that this indicator, like the Delta Strength and the Cumulative Delta tools, also uses the same tape reconstruction feature so that you can look at the order size and not the fill size. The fill size is completely useless unless you're just looking at all the contracts. What I'm doing with the indicator is I'm looking at order size between 25 and 2,000. So the setup for the indicator is pretty simple. We tell it here to reconstruct the tape, and we set our filter values, and then we set a reset time for the cumulative delta. We then tell it the deviation points, and if we are looking at the 500 tick chart, we put in a value of 2.5. If we are doing this on a 150 tick chart, we put in a value of 1.25. We then have the ability to look at delta deviation in the number of contracts. And what that means is that if you set it at 1, the deviation can be as small as 1 in order to show the divergence. If you'd like to only see divergences that have significant numbers of contracts, you could raise that up and say 100 or 1,000. And then the last part that we're looking at is we're looking at the number of key points that we want to check against to see divergences. I've unchecked the box for show zigzag because I don't want its zigzag to overlay the indicator itself. Okay, so what is really cool about this indicator is the way that it computes these divergences. So as we look at our key points back here on the 150 tick chart, we can see that as the market retraced to the minor area of support right here, it was telling us that there was a bearish divergence at that point, and then it told us we had multiple bearish divergences at the eventual high, which is an exhaustion pattern here. That same bearish divergence we see here, and you can see my entry into the trade here. And when we look at the order flow, we see that we had two of our strongest order flow signals, the exhaustion and the ZTP order flow, combined with an extremely strong delta strength of a negative 1147. The exit on this trade was 2 ticks higher than the blue zone down here, and that resulted in a profit of about 3 3/4 points. And then right after that, there was a counter trend trade here that I chose not to take because of the fact that it was a counter trend. But in reviewing what the cumulative delta was down here, what I missed when I did my initial evaluation is just how steep the cumulative delta had been coming off as we got to that trade. And you can see the sell-off in the cumulative delta, and this was tracking contracts of 25 or more. So it probably would have been a decent trade idea here to have taken it and then seen the reaction of what happens down here when it hit the intermediate support zone. What makes this indicator unique is that you can actually get a divergence from the low here to the high here. And as you can see, at this point here, we have 3 divergences that lined up. First from the previous high here, from the previous low, and from the current low here, and that resulted in an excellent trade that was a test of this high. We then again see bearish divergences each time the market traded down and did its retracement back to the minor area of resistance. And again, this is resistance that's coming from the low here to the high here. and that makes that just a very interesting way to use this tool. Now here's another interesting way to look at this indicator and to use the tools that are available to you. What I've done here is I've turned the tick setting up to 5,000 ticks, and I have increased the zigzags here. And what you can see here is, starting back on Monday, you see a very interesting pattern where from the open on Monday, the Delta Divergence indicator, which is now tracking orders of 100 or more, these were net sellers the entire day on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, they continued to create bearish divergence at each high as the market topped there at 2736. And again, you can see how they were net sellers on Tuesday the 5th, and again on Wednesday the 6th. And then that takes us into the trade for today, where you can see that from the lows, they bought approximately 20,000 more contracts. What you need to do is you also need to ignore any divergence signals that occur from midnight, because that is when the indicator resets itself. So these bullish signals in here, they are not valid. Now the suggested use for the indicator would of course be where we have identified price patterns along with order flow and the delta strength. And because this can be back tested, you can go and determine whether or not it would be profitable to have traded from this area here, which would not be a known price pattern, but would be 3 different levels of divergence, including the divergence that comes off of this exhaustion pattern down here from the low to the high. The problem that you would have with doing something like this is the likelihood that you would develop order flow in this area here, and you would also have had a bearish signal here, which went for a few points before ultimately trading a few ticks higher, and then the sell-off began. Ever since I debuted this indicator in the webinar last week, I've been deluged with emails about when it will be available. I previously wanted to wait until Shark Indicators had resolved a problem with Bloodhound reading my indicator. And after going back and forth with the Bloodhound guys, I've decided to release the indicator, even though it may not be compatible with Bloodhound when they resolve the issue that they are dealing with on their end. There was also one other change I wanted made to the indicator. There's currently not an audible alert signal being given, and for this type of pattern I would like to see that. But because of the strong interest, I am going to release it and then do a secondary release when the indicator is updated with the audio and compatible with Bloodhound. I've sent the source files off to the programmer, and when I receive those back from the programmer, I will make a blog entry probably tomorrow or Saturday announcing the release of the software. As usual, contact me when you see the blog release and I will get the software to you. I'd like to thank you for watching this video on the new indicator that ZoneTraderPro has, and if you should have any questions, you can of course give me a call. Have a good day.